familiar with this. I mean, you all have hair, I see here, very beautiful locks of hair. And what I'm trying to relate to here with the hair is that when you cut your hair, it just grows back normally, right? Now compare that to trees. Whenever you cut a branch of a tree, it's not going to come back as quickly, or actually in the same way that your hair comes back. So, trying to relate that here. It's not working, by the way. Let's look at it.
Try clicking on the keyboard.
Okay, so we've got pruning. Now, can anyone give me a definition for pruning? What is pruning? Yes.
Cutting off undesirable limbs or leaves or stems.
Perfect. That's a pretty good description right there. Here in this definition, I have a selective removal of parts of plants such as branches, buds, and roots. Now, it's not only for undesirable parts. You can do it for several reasons. Today we're going over, again, tree pruning. But here you see somebody cutting off a limb of a tree with a chainsaw, a thick branch. Over here we see somebody cutting off a smaller branch. Now that's a lopper. We'll be going over equipment in the next lesson, so don't worry about that. Okay, so why do we prune trees? Anybody want to give me a reason? Just off the top of your head.
Safety.
Safety?
Beauty.
Beauty?
Plant health.
Perfect. You all got it. These were the 3 reasons. That's a peach tree right there. Tree health, safety, and shaping. Now, we're going to go a little bit in depth into each one of these reasons. First of all, tree health. There's actually a lot of benefits to pruning trees. Right. First one of those being helps the tree grow stronger. Now, what does happen? Well, usually when there's you see here a branch that is not going to get much sunlight because of the rest of the foliage in the tree, then you know the leaves there are the ones making the sugars for the tree. And in those, you won't be getting much income of sugar from this branch. So you want to cut it off. And the tree will use all that sugar to keep growing wherever you want it. It prevents diseases. If there is a branch that is, you see here, right here, it's broken, you see other branches that maybe have wounds or something, they're more susceptible to diseases, airborne diseases for trees. And if you don't know about this, there's been a lot of diseases that have wiped out complete species of trees right here in North America, the chestnut being one of them. Okay, now we'll go on to safety. So, okay, that's the first one that's kind of hilarious. Branches falling, it's not hilarious, sorry. Branches falling on people. This is something you don't want to deal with. So you prune for that matter. If you live in a neighborhood where people walk by and you have a tree out there that might have a branch that could fall off, and we have branches falling on private property. This could be cars, this could be somebody's home. You want to prune for those reasons. And the third one, branches falling on disrupting electrical cables or other types of infrastructure materials. Now, of course, other being branches falling off into the street, might cause a car crash. Next reason, and the last is shaping. Now, shaping, as Bo said, could be for beauty, which I like to call aesthetics. I like the word aesthetics. Gardening, landscaping, and production. Prevent diseases and bigger fruits. Like I told you before, because those branches aren't making any sugars for you for this tree, then if you cut it off, then all that sugar, all that energy will be put into fruiting actually, in the right time for the tree. So you'll have not only more fruit, but bigger fruit as well. And disease prevention, usually when you have some sort of industry with trees, it tends to be a monocrop. So if a disease comes into the tree, it will spread very, very easily. Okay, so tree shapers, I just want to show you some people here who do it for the aesthetics. These are kind of unusual, but I found they were cool. So then we have Axel Erlandson. He is known as the guy who made the tree circus. He has a bunch of trees in which he used grafting and pruning to make different shapes of trees. We have Bonnie Gale. She does structures with this sort of architectural kind of, and she uses just pruning and grafting. And Peter Cook, awesome. See right there, he shaped the tree to make it into a chair. What a guy. Okay, so what needs to be removed from a tree? Okay, that's Groot, by the way. You haven't seen Guardians of the Galaxy. We have to remove the dead branches, the ingrown branches, overlapping limbs, diseased limbs, decayed and weak limbs, and limbs with leaves that can't reach the sunlight. Yes, Mark?
What's an ingrown branch?
Well, I'm gonna get to that right now. I'm gonna
Okay.
explain every single one, don't worry. Dead branches, of course, you see them dead, and fungi and other types of diseases can get into that, and it can affect your tree, so you wanna just cut them off. Now, ingrown branches are branches that are grow from the tree, and then they grow into the tree. They grow into the crown of the tree. This is the crown. And so what happens is, they won't be getting much sunlight either to it. So you wanna just cut them off. Now, it also ties into overlapping limbs. Overlapping is when they touch. You have two branches that touch. And what happens is, the wind is passing through the tree. So if you have two overlapping branches, they start to make friction on each other. They start to just rub on each other, making a wound susceptible to diseases. Now we have also diseased limbs. Something to say, it's a lot of disease, it's a lot of prevention you have to take care of a tree. Decaying and weak limbs. Now this is particularly interesting, just because we have it here actually at UF. If you go like right past the right tuning, there's a tree there that has a pole that holds up one of the branches, and that branch will fall off if it didn't have that support. So the weak limb, it could start off like very, very thin, and then it could get thicker and thicker, and if that tree, if all that weight is going to end up breaking the branch, and once it breaks the branch, susceptible to diseases, yes, but it also won't heal as well as you cutting. We'll be going over methods of tree pruning in a later lesson, but I just want to point that out right now. And again, limbs with leaves, don't get any sunlight, that's just inefficient. Okay, so what I want you to know, first of all, is the steps to pruning, before pruning actually. So you're going to identify why you're pruning, you're going to identify what you're pruning, and you're going to prune branches safely. WWS. World War Savage. Not really. So, let's see. First of all, you have to identify why you're pruning, the reasons that I gave you before: tree health, shaping of tree, and then we have to identify what we're going to prune. So you have to see a tree, and you have to basically see what's wrong there. From the list of things that I showed you, what do you want to prune off the tree? And then of course, prune branches safely. I mean, don't use a chainsaw for something small. It's all really logical. Okay. So right here I have a bit of a demonstration for you. But right now we're going to say that this is an oak tree, and that's kind of what we know. And what we're going to do is we're going to identify what branches should be cut off. So anybody want to, and give me the reason actually. So yes.
On the bottom broken branch on the left-hand side
This
should
one?
be, should be cut.
Okay. And why?
It's broken.
Okay. What could happen?
The piece could fall, hurt someone. It's also susceptible to disease through the open cavity of the tree.
Why you?
The branch that's like growing back into the tree and it's like touching the other one?
This one?
Yeah,
Okay. Why?
because it's growing back into the tree and it's not getting enough sunlight, so it's not a very productive limb.
Okay. Okay.
The very, very bottom,
This one?
yeah,
Okay. Why would that be cut off?
because it's a decayed limb, it's already completely dead. It serves no purpose for the tree. The only purpose it would serve is to develop an infection or a point of entry for insects.
Oh, perfect.
The one in the middle right there that doesn't have any leaves.
Which one?
The one in the top. Right there.
This one?
And then down.
Oh, that.
Yeah.
Okay. Why?
So it's like, doesn't get a lot of sun.
Okay. All right, you guys did great with it. Okay. Now we're gonna watch a short video review of material. He's a lot more handsome than I am.
You know, any clown can do this type of tree pruning, but what's happening here is we've really created a whole circus of problems for this tree to face throughout the rest of its life. Right now, I'm having a bad hair day, but unlike these trees, it's easy for me to go ahead and help solve that problem. Go home, take a shower, get rid of all this kind of stuff, and I'm back to normal again. The first thing that these trees are going to have to be fighting now for the rest of their lives is trying to recover from this terrible haircut that they've received. My hair will grow back. Their branches never will grow back. Should they grow back, there's going to be many problems that this tree is facing. All the branches that come off and sprout off on the end or the tips of those lopped off branches, they're going to be very weakly attached to this tree. And these trees right here are planted all along a parking lot. And what's going to happen is there's going to be a greater chance that those branches could now come crashing down on the cars that are going to be parking underneath their shade.
What we spoke about.
Another problem, if we think about removing all these branches, is that the food for the tree is produced in the leaves. And now what you have done essentially is removed all the branches, you've removed all the leaves off that tree, and therefore the tree cannot produce any food during the growing season. Although we are seeing some leaves on this tree, we need to point out that there's not enough leaves on this tree to sustain this tree the same level that it was before all these branches were removed. It may or may not ever recover. Another problem that we have is if you look on the end of these branches, what you're having is that tree is just lopped off, and that is never going to seal over. And so that is going to die, and that will be a vector or a way for insects and diseases to get into that tree. But what are some of the reasons for pruning? Well, when a tree is young like this, we prune the tree to help enhance the tree's natural shape. That's one reason you prune trees. You take the natural shape of the tree, you work with it, and then you begin doing things like improving the branching structure of that tree, to make that tree a healthier tree, to make the tree a stronger tree. We prune to maintain the health of the tree, actually. The 3 steps that we go through when we prune any size tree is the first thing you do is you remove all the dead branches in the tree. And the reason why that's important is you have to remove the dead branches of the tree because that's how insects and diseases can get into the tree. The second thing that we do is we go in and then we begin removing the crossings or rubbing branches. And the reason why it's important to remove those is just because as they blow and rub together in the wind, then you'll be creating an open wound on that tree, and that'll be, again, another avenue for insects and diseases to get into the tree. The third thing you do is once you've taken out all of those, then you just kind of step back. You look at the tree, and then comes the artistic part of what you're doing. You want the tree to be balanced. You want the tree to be pleasing to look at. And so it's really okay to step back from that tree, walk all the way around it, and take a look at what that tree looks like, and then begin go in and selectively pruning out some of those branches to kind of balance the tree back out. During that process, what you'll also be doing is removing some of the inner branches in the tree, and by doing that, you're opening up that crown to allow more wind to blow through. And so in the high winds that we have in Oklahoma, the tree won't be torqued quite as much, and wind can blow through it and not cause any branches to break because of the wind. And then also, with that open crown, insects won't be able to congregate in the crown of the tree. Those are some of the reasons why we prune trees.
Okay, so you saw that was a review of what we did basically right now, what we learned. And I do want you to remember this WWS just because you have to recognize why we're pruning, and those are the 3 reasons: health for the tree, the shaping of the tree, and safety in general. The other W is what we're pruning, so you have to identify the things we're pruning, the dead, the limbs, diseased limbs that are not making any sugars. And lastly, safety, of course, and then safely prune, which these 2 will be going over in next lessons. So I do want you to remember this for the next. Okay, so now on your journals, I just want you to write what are the 3 reasons why we prune. And Leaf safety, what does this stand for? That's what I wanted to know. All right. And in our next class, we'll be looking at tree pruning times and methods, also equipment. There's a lot more lessons on this one, about 3 or so. All right, thank you very much.
Okay, Vicente, so go ahead and tell us a couple of things that you liked about your presentation and a couple of things in which you think you could improve.
Okay, I think the PowerPoint slides themselves are not too filled with anything, like too much to be an eyesore. Second of all, what I explained, I think I explained it thoroughly, but again, I put a review up, and now that I see it, I'm like, maybe he explained everything better than I did in a shorter time, so. I might have gone a little under the time expected. I'm not sure who did it.
You were close, but
Okay.
not quite, but you're okay.
Okay. And, yeah, maybe I could have implemented more ways to interact with the students, get your guys' attention. Yes?
Never mind.
No.
All right, yeah, so let's maybe have some comments. Hopefully you're writing some comments down on those little white sheets there on the table, but let's go ahead and talk about what we think.
To be completely honest, I think you explained it better than the video. The video being a little bit outdated, lost my interest pretty quick.
Oh,
That's just, as a student though. I tend to, I'm more of a visual learner, so I tend to focus more on lectures than I do watching something. It's just,
oh.
I'm way,
Yes.
or an auditory.
I really like the acronym that you have on the board. I think it's a really effective way for kids to remember something. Like WWS, why, what, safety. I really like that.
It would have been better if you would, as we got to it, wrote it down on the board for visual representation as well as you were explaining it.
Filled out the acronym.
Yes?
I like the tree demo you did, where you asked the students what the problems were.
Thank you. Thought it was pretty cool. There's not much though. I can't bring a tree in here.
Anything else? Yeah, so I agree with all those comments as well. I thought overall you did a great job with the lecture portion. You seemed very knowledgeable on your stuff, kind of knew what you were talking about. You had a pretty good pace as well throughout the lecture. As far as your demonstration goes, I really like how you had the tree drawn on the board. That was a highlight that people kind of liked, and I like how you called out students to say, well, how could we prune this tree? I think as far as the demonstration goes, I think maybe the steps could have been a little bit more clear. Remember, in demonstration, we want to have those steps. First, select a tree. Second, identify the branches need prune. 3, so then students can walk away knowing the 5 steps to pruning, or whatever your however many steps you have. I thought the video was okay. It's just another way in which you can reiterate that information, because some students like Andrew may not like the video, but then Bo may have liked the video. So some people may like it, some people don't. And the last comment I have, so I really like the very end with your your summary, where students would write some stuff down in the journal. I think it would be even better if you could even afterwards talk about that as a class, and have some sort of summarizing discussion or some questions. But overall, nice job.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Yeah, I also thought the video was just because maybe students haven't seen me in the field cutting a tree, so it's more credible, like we were talking about in class.
Yeah.
So, all right. Thank you.
Take one. It's not yours. It's not yours.
I feel like it made Andrew's day when he first walked in here and saw it. Oh, I have it. I'm really busy. Maybe poke a hole in your cup and go that so far.
Always gonna really upset.
Okay, let's see. Rebecca, could you go ahead and kind of set the stage? Do you want me to see if the other clicker works? Would you prefer a clicker?
Yes.
Okay, give me 1 second and I'll grab my this one. I don't know if the battery's dead or if it's just not working. Or, you know what, I might be plugged into the wrong computer.
It's so fun.
Look at that. That's supposed to be the PhD.
But it's accurate.
There you go. Okay, so could you go ahead and kind of set the stage, kind of what grade level and what class?
Yes. This is Animal Sciences Services 3, and the unit we are in is Animal Breeding and Reproduction. And last week we went over artificial insemination, and you got to observe the process at the barn. And so this week we're going to go over embryo transfers. So today we're going to go over it in class, and then next class period you'll actually get to see it in the lab, and that's where we'll go over equipment, materials, and stuff like that. So if you'll remember last week, we went over artificial insemination and the process and why we do it and the reason behind it, and then why the steps are so important. So a lot of the information you learned last week will be applied today to embryo transfers.
Comes down to this right now. Clint Bronner on bodacious.
That is up there. He just moved ahead of Adriano Moraes by half a point on 3 bulls. 249 to 248.5 if my quick figures are correct.
There is no end to your talents. Math, bull riding, the English language.
But you're stretching it a little bit. But, you know, there's not a whole lot to do right here, but just everybody just throw up their hands and pull for Clint Bronner on the baddest bull in pro rodeo. Just ride, baby. We've heard that before. Jim Sharp pulling his rope. Everybody's pulling for Clint Bronner. You heard Adriano Moraes say, I'd be happy for a second to see somebody stick it on this bull because nobody's ridden him past 4 or 5 seconds. And they need to get this big bad yellow rose where he don't think he's king of the hill.
Let's go Roscoe. Everybody in Roscoe.
One thing I know,
for this.
either way, the little cowboy, 130 pounds, is going to put everything he's got into it. Bet on that.
Bronner, bodacious. Here we go.
Let's see. Hang on, Clint. Get back down. Get back down. Stay down. Stay down. God. Oh, my man. He's all right. In front of the catch pin.
Oh, they're saying no good, Donnie.
You know, I know.
Just jump on the tables.
So has anyone heard of Bodacious before? So he was known as one of the best rodeo bulls ever, and he had to be retired when he learned a bad habit, but he was really good. And so, you know, as you can see there, he won a lot of stuff. And when he was 12, he ended up dying due to a foot infection. So the breeders of him, you know, they had some offspring and everything, but they wanted to continue the genetics, but they couldn't think of a way to do it. So someone did. Sunbelt bucking bulls, and they went and they found Bodacious's mom, who at this point in time was pretty old. And they took that cow and they did embryo transfers. So they flushed the cow, and each cow you'll get 6 to 7 viable embryos on average per embryo transfer. Now you can have up to 20, sometimes you get 0, so you never know. So they took this old cow and they continually did embryo transfers on her. And so she never carried a calf, but by doing this they were able to get 40 full siblings to Bodacious. So does anyone know some other benefits to performing embryo transplants?
I mean, if you have a really nice heifer or cow in this case, you basically take away all the variables of having a pregnancy within herself. Because there are complications.
Exactly. You do not want to risk your cow if it's that good.
Exactly. So I mean, you throw them in a dairy cow and go at it. But
Absolutely. Anyone else?
She can only carry 1 calf a year. I mean, if she's a good cow, you'll get a calf every year, but that's all she can give you. She can't give you 6 or 7 a year like a dog or something. So if you flush her, you can get maybe 10 calves or something out of her for a year instead of just 1.
Exactly. Anybody else? Alright. So here's just a list of a few of the reasons why people do embryo transplants. It increases the number of offsprings, faster genetic process, so you can get your genetics like to grow really fast through this, because you can have a lot more. You know, breed them more often. And then, you know, like he was saying, cows that you either don't want to because they're too good, or maybe they physically can't carry a calf. That's a good time to do embryo transfers. And it increases the income if you sell the embryos, because there's some downsides. It is expensive. Your donor cow will cost around $500 to collect the embryos, but it only costs $100 to put the embryos in other cows. So it's a cost benefit, so it's not for everyone, but for some people this works really well. Alright, so the 7 steps as I handed out, and this will be on the unit exam. This is what you need to take away from this lesson, is the 7 steps. So step 1 is selection of the donor cow. Step 2, superovulation of the donor cow. Step 3, insemination of the donor cow. Step 4, flushing the embryos. Step 5, evaluation of the embryos. Step 6, selection and preparation of the recipient females. And step 7, transfer of the embryos. So there's the key words are highlighted in yellow. And so if you can remember those, the rest kind of comes, because the first 3 are the donor cows, the 4th and 5th are the embryos, and the 7th is the embryo. And then the 6th is the recipient females. So now we'll go over in depth each of the 7 steps. So your first is selection of the donor cow. So does anyone know what kind of things you're going to look for in your donor cow? So this is the cow that you'll be taking the embryos from.
She's a superior female in your herd. She's like your #1. Maybe she won. She was like the grand champion heifer at the National Angus Show or something.
Exactly. You want a really good quality cow to spend that much money on it. Do you have
I was gonna say a good carcass, but I guess that's.
Yes. And depending on what you're going for, because like the demonstration I used, they were breeding for bucking bulls, so they didn't care what it looked like. They cared, you know, about other traits. They weren't going for like registered Angus or anything. But if you're going for registered Angus, you're going to be looking at carcass and the size and, you know, how quickly, you know, the birth weight to weaning weight. Whereas a dairy cow, you'll be looking more for traits like milk production. So you want a really good donor cow, and the donor cow does not have to be in good health as far as having calves. It can be really old. It doesn't affect anything. The next step is the superovulation of the donor cow. So superovulation is the release of multiple eggs at a single estrus. So this is done through drugs, which we'll explain in the next lab, the process to get the cow to superovulate. Sometimes it doesn't work and you get none, but sometimes you can get upwards to 20. The basic principle of superovulation is to stimulate the extensive follicles developing throughout the use of follicle stimulation hormones, FSH. So this is just a brief overview on how it's done, but we'll go over that one next time. There's different ways and different procedures to doing this. Everyone's different. It depends on like your setup and how all that goes. That's just one of the steps. Alright, now 3 is the insemination of the donor cow. Now this is the same thing that we learned last week in the AI lab. Most people choose to AI the donor cow because you need it to work, and you need a lot more dose than normal because you're trying to, instead of getting 1 offspring, you're trying to get, maybe 10. And so during this process, you'll inseminate the cow more than once. So usually during AI, you choose 1 time. This time, you'll do typically 3 to 4 times. And so, like in this example, it's 12, 24, and 36 hours after the onset of standing estrus. So now with this, another benefit of embryo transfers is you don't have to own the bull. So you can use any bull from anywhere over the world and just have the semen shipped to you. So not only do you not have to have good cows, except for donor cow, you don't have to have a bull. So this is why this concept appeals to a lot of people to do insemination. And it's same with AI. You want to put the semen in the body of the uterus. Alright, now flushing the embryos. This is a really cool process, and it usually doesn't take more than 30 minutes. The cows don't feel it. It doesn't bother them at all. And to collect the embryos, a small synthetic rubber catheter is put in through the cervix of the donor cow. And a special medium is flushed into it, and that's how you collect the embryos. And you do this 7 days after estrus. So they're still really small. Next step is evaluation of the embryos. So you don't want to waste your time and money to put in bad embryo in the cow. So individual embryos are evaluated for their quality, and they're classified in 4 different groups. So the 4, you have excellent and good, fair, poor, dead, or degrading. So you look at these under a microscope, and there's different criteria to what they go under. So the excellent or good, you have a very high chance of getting the offspring born healthy and alive. Fair is a pretty good chance, and most people will take that chance. But there's some ranchers and stuff that they will only use excellent or good. In the poor, you're running about you got a 20% chance. So unless you only got poor and it's a really good cow and you want to try, it's not usually worth it. And then dead or degrading is a 0% chance. So these are some of the criteria for looking at it. So you want to make sure that the shape is good, and you want to make sure that everything looks normal, and you want to look at the size. And so if you have 10 embryos and 2 are really small compared to the rest, then those 2 probably aren't as good. And the color and texture is very important, and you want to look at just overall how it's put together. Make sure everything's right for that day, so you'll know when you're looking at it how far along it should be. And so you want to make sure it's to that point. And then the 6th step is selection and preparation of recipient females. So for instance, if you have a Black Angus herd and you ended up with this cow and you got a red calf, you don't want red calves. So this cow, she's big, nice, meets all your, what you want out of a mom. She's got good milk production, good size, didn't get pulled down by the calf, but you want a black female. So this would be a good cow to use for embryo transfers, because she's a good mom, she's just not producing the kind of babies that you want to use. Another good option that a lot of people use is dairy cows. They'll breed a dairy cow to a beef bull, and they'll get a 50-50 calf, and they'll use those for embryos because they produce more milk. And so that gives you a good, healthy calf. And some people breed their donor cows, so they have babies too, but a lot of people don't because they don't want to pull the mom down or risk any complications. Step 7 is the transfer of embryos. So we will watch a quick video, and it shows how it's done. And this we will be going over in our next class in the lab.
My name is Galen Lusk. I'm with Western Genetics, and I'm a veterinarian, but I specialize in embryo transfer. It takes about 16 days from the time we start getting the animal ready until the day I show up and the procedure's done. Today is the 16th day. The animals have been superovulated with follicle-stimulating hormone. So when we take the frozen embryos out of the tank, we air thaw them for about 5 seconds, then they go into this warm water bath for about 20 seconds. And we pull them out, dry off the straw, load them up into guns, and then implant them directly. So it's a quick procedure, and they seem to survive very well. It's not difficult. It takes a little time, a little patience, but it's non-surgical. It's all done under